Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Seattle Angel and the Startup Investor Accelerator workshop series. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about how to use AI in the Lean Startup Customer Discovery program. We put these recordings up on our YouTube channel, so look for them there. Our speaker today is Thorsten Lintz. Let me bring Thorsten up, and Thorsten, just jump right in.
Thank you so much, John, for the opportunity. Welcome, everyone. Just want to talk about my journey. I started here actually at the Seattle Angel at Startup Coffee in 2019 with our company. When we started off 5 years ago, John and I talked about how to automate, customer experiments, right? And what we had in mind at that time is building some sort of a SaaS company. So we went into automation. We actually got a handful of clients actually out of Seattle. These were our starting clients, where we proved actually how you can find your product market, actually how you find your first paying customers, right? So that was actually our starting point. In 2022, roughly when Gen AI hit the scene, we started scaling our business. We work for companies like AstraZeneca right now, larger companies who all have a need for AI. And we have 50% of our clients are still startup founders. And when they come to us, they have all these great ideas. Oh, get me 1,000 new customers in like a week, right? Use AI and actually scale this up. The reality is, many of the founders who join our company as clients, they are not prepared actually to scale their business. They have no idea at this point what it takes to actually get to customer 1, then to customer 2, and to customer 5 and 10. So what we usually do is we have our own methodology, and we take them through a process where they actually run an automation system, and we actually get them in front of early adopters and get them actually to interview their first potential early adopters. We don't talk about customers yet at this stage. And John and I have been in discussion, and over the last 2 years, when we started with automation, we started using a lot of those AI tools. And these days, everybody feels, okay, AI can be the solution to my problems, right? It can, but we still need to understand. We still need to get in front of our customers and still talk to them in order to really understand our potential customers' pain points, because the AI can help us with the process, but it cannot help us conducting these interviews and extracting all the information we need. So I talked about us. So we were automation business and turned into an AI company. Our focus is really on marketing. And that's pretty much it, what I want to mention about our company. We do a little bit Gen AI, we build chatbots and stuff like this. But in the end of the day, what keeps us busy every week is actually how do we find those early adopters for our startup clients. And so we built that process where we are trying to find out what is the product, what is the solution you're trying to build, and what is the problem you're trying to solve. Many of our startup founders, they come to us with a technical solution and feel like, oh, I have a great product here and everybody needs to buy this, right? So I talked to my grandma and she loves it, right? And I got actually a family round done and I got some funding in the bank now. The reality is, it is, absolutely hard, to find your first paying customer, right? Talking about this, and John calls them the cheerleaders, is the easy part of this, right? People who cheer you on, oh, you got a great product, right? And keep you going. The reality is you need to find the one who actually pays money for your solution, right? And in order to get paid for your services, you need to understand what is the pain point you're trying to resolve. And if that customer actually is looking for an alternative solution to the one he has right now. So this is the foundation of this. So John talked about how do you merge lean and AI. And if you look at a lean startup, the process is build, measure, learn. It's always learning from the activities I do. So I build something, I measure the results, I learn from it and adopt, right? So I always need to have a learning validation, be it a positive or a negative one. But in the end of the day, when we run these 14-day sprints, after 14 days, we get out of this and have a result and say, all right, this messaging here worked or got you so many appointments, and this messaging actually didn't get you any appointments. So is it the messaging or is it the product? Is it your offer? So we're trying to figure this out. And of course, you need to pivot or preserve over time, right? So you keep going and keep building, or you got to change course. The importance of combining AI with lean, what we've seen and what we witness every day is that AI makes you faster, right? It makes you faster when you're trying to test something, when you're trying to test your content hypothesis, when you're trying even to test like little product features or pricing hypothesis. It just helps you on the process. It used to be, we run a lot of LinkedIn campaigns, and we had a team actually setting up those campaigns manually. We built a tool around this, and it takes us like 5% of the time right now. So even for founders who are looking into building something like a LinkedIn funnel, those AI tools, really make you faster and get you to your target audience in order to get those interviews. So what you can do with LinkedIn and many of the social media tools, you can automate a lot of content variations. So instead of testing just one message, I can test like 10 different messages. I can test 15 different target audiences or sub niches. I can test all of this. When we've done this like 4 or 5 years ago, it was a tedious process. Because of ChatGPT and many of the automation tools, it's something that we can easily set up these days and run overnight. And those tools, they help you now, based on the results to gather the insights that you need. So when we talk about insights, it's not just the results in terms of how many clicks did I get, how many views. The benchmark for us as a company, and especially when we speak to startups, is how many interviews did you actually get out of your campaigns, right? I feel like sometimes the metrics are off. Many of our startups, many companies in general, they're using, soft metrics like likes, right? Like views, but they don't give us the information that we need. For us and what we've seen over the last few years, it's actually important. How many people did you talk to? How many interviews? How much time did you spend actually with the prospective customers? Those are the metrics that we feel are important that can get you somewhere. We work for startups. They changed based on customers' feedback. Their product. They added features because they figured out they were building something no one needed, right? And they needed to change their product strategy as a result of this. But with all of this, we're using a lot of tools, and everybody in this room here, I suppose, uses ChatGPT and Claude and Google Gemini and Midjourney and all of these tools for your day-to-day work now. We are the same, right? We train actually people on using these tools because John mentioned this at the beginning. It's about how do you prompt actually ChatGPT to get the right results, out of an AI. And that's always the difficult part. Just entering a sentence like, help me building a business proposal doesn't get you anywhere, right? There's an art and science to prompt engineering, which gets you much better and much faster results. However, so I want to actually show you today a few of the tools that we are using in our own business, that we're using actually for all the startups that actually work with us. So we built a process and I lined up those tools. So part of it is really at the first stage, who's actually your audience, who is your customer, right? And the difficult part is what we do is I mean, when we talk to a startup, they tell us, well, my customer is male, he is Caucasian, and he works in a large corporation. So what we do is actually we run a tool on their website, and we're going to show you that tool that taps into Google Analytics and gives us the audience that comes to their page. So we get actually personas. We build personas based on web traffic, and based on that can build sub-niches. So we can build the ICP that is really coming to us to a company's page. The alternative approach is we also use a tool that is super copy, that is a strategic planning tool, and we tap into a website. And from there, we start building out personas and then continue into the ICP. So there are two different approaches. If you're a company who has a lot of traffic, we give you the opportunity to understand your Google Analytics, because Google Analytics is very confusing to some people. And then we start mining the data. We look at competition. We look actually even at your social profiles, and we can pretty much tell you what does your customer or the user that comes to your page right now look like, and does it actually match your expectation? I mean, the customer you want to target. For research, I mean, there are tools like Perplexity. I guess many people use Perplexity these days. There is ChatGPT, Claude, Google, Midjourney. If you're talking about image generation, I mean, for social media posts, there are many tools in the market. So we found that Midjourney is doing a great job in the market compared to like DALL-E 3. There's Stable Diffusion. If you need to use an API to create images, Stable Diffusion is the better solution. And then you have a bunch of these video tools coming up. So once you created your content using all these different tools, it's about how do you set up an A/B test, right? And of course, there's the LinkedIn campaign, where we have a LinkedIn tool that gives you a lot of data, but then you have actually traffic to your website. And again, Google Analytics can be helpful, but it can be confusing. So we found a startup, and this is a startup tool we're using. It's Hawyuku, based out of Indonesia. And what they allow is actually to run experiments on websites. They allow you to change the color, the appearance of your website, the messaging using an AI. So, I mean, it's a pretty good tool. And it allows you to run like 10, 15 separate experiments at the same time and testing just a landing page or messaging on a landing page. The Inno AI tool here is the LinkedIn automation tool. I will show, a dashboard, how a dashboard should look like. But to us, to be honest, it's good enough if you use just a Google Sheet. The problem we have with many of the founders, they don't have a Google Sheet where they actually record the data, right? This would be just a basic KPI sheet to understand, am I successful with what I'm doing, right? Do I get actually to the right customer that I want to talk to? So with all the sophisticated AI tools, sometimes it's good enough to have a Google Sheet in place. But again, you should actually fill out those Google Sheets and have all the information available. When we talk about engagement, and this is like the part, so we have the tool to set it up. We have like a tool now that actually measures the KPIs. Now we need to get the messaging out, and there are different tools. There are social media tools. We are using SocialBee, but there are way more tools than SocialBee. There is a chatbot builder tool we are using. When you're a B2C business, chatbots are actually important. So this tool, I'm going to show that tool, taps into Facebook. It actually taps into the Facebook Messenger, into WhatsApp Messenger at the same time, Instagram and Telegram, and we automate the responses. It's connected to ChatGPT, to OpenAI's ChatGPT, and the chatbot now responds automatically and leads a potential client or a potential early adopter through a funnel to a phone call. And you can run this 24/7. You just have to teach and train the chatbot builder once, and then it runs on autopilot. So this is how AI can actually help you, right? So we used to run campaigns. Even on chatbots. I remember my first chatbot, which was a simulation, but still somebody needed to use it. With ChatGPT, right now, everything runs almost on autopilot if you train the system right. We also built apps in order to actually build your Twitter accounts. Twitter is still important these days, but a lot of people who hate it. But for SEO purposes and just in order to build your own credibility in the market, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Medium, especially in B2B, are the most important channels. And even if you're a B2C company, right, still, if you want to build credibility, you should actually, be on one of these channels. In order to set up the experiments, however, we need to understand what is it what we're trying to find out, right? What is it what we're trying to measure, and how do we measure success? I've learned actually from a startup mentor once that 80% of all initial experiments fail because the analytics have not been set up yet, right? There is this aha moment when you run your first set of experiments or campaigns and there's no data coming back, right? This is, the time then you should try to figure out, all right, did I set up Google Analytics the right way? Do I have the right benchmark in place? So it really comes down to the setup in the back end. When we speak about the content or the metrics itself, it always depends, again, on your objective, on your goals. So for us always, or for startup, it needs to be, a discovery call. It needs to be a conversation with a prospective early adopter. Everything else in between, like opens and clicks and even website actions, don't mean anything. They are soft metrics. Unless a potential customer, early adopter, volunteers to hand over his email for some value, you're not getting anywhere. So for that reason, it's important to build a funnel where at some point you ask for a fee. It could be, could be a webinar fee where you actually demo your product. It could be an email address for updates on product. But your early adopter should actually hand over, should show interest, and should give you something in return for information, for know-how that you own, right? And John always talks about this. Build a community, right? Build an online community, ask actually people to pay for it, to get in, and then nurture these customers, learn from these potential customers. But with lots of the metrics we are seeing, they're useless. And the problem, like the email opens, many people jump on email opens, is the bots, because there's a lot of AI bots that click actually on your emails, right? And it looks like, oh, these are opens, my campaign is actually working, but it's actually not working. So it's really the discovery call, and even the reply to a message is a good metric. Everything else, is just a vanity metric. On social media, very similar, right? The likes, the comments, are weak metrics, but on the other hand, the shares are actually important. Whoever shares actually your content, that might be actually an interesting person to talk to. Somebody who reaches out to you, over social media, or, and then even the increased number of followers might be interesting if you start the analytics, what kind of people are going to follow you based on your content strategy. And once you have all this content, again, there's the email channel, there's a LinkedIn, there's a social media channel. There are probably, the website is a channel in itself, but what we should do here is we should automate the content variations, right? And so, because we need to learn something. And what we see is that, especially on landing page tests, sometimes people don't understand what is a person doing on my website. So we run a tool on this and we record even sessions on a website. How much time do they spend on your content? How much time do they spend and look at stuff? Right? How fast do they actually browse down or leave the page? Those are metrics which are important, because you need to get the messaging right, because AI helps you with the messaging, right? It doesn't help you with, redefining your product, especially not in this case. In this case, it's about getting the messaging right, the content right, in order to actually get to your early adopters. And then, of course, finally, we need to start collecting and analyzing customer data, right? So, I mean, build, a data funnel, and you should actually, look at your data. Not just every day, but like every 7 days and say, oh, has this worked or this didn't work? How do I change this now? Questions so far? And if I'm too fast, just stop me.
I've been trying to post things into the chat about what you've been talking about, but I haven't seen any questions come up yet in the chat.
Okay. All right. So let's go to the tools. This is the more interesting part here, I guess, right? There's a tool called Supercopy, and that is something quite interesting. It helps us pretty easily to build a strategic plan for any company. So if you go, and it's just a helpful tool to get to information, right? Let's take Nike as an example. And what the tool does, it creates a brand persona. It can be a small consulting firm, it can be a startup. It just goes to the website and pulls the SEO information from there. And what it does, it builds actually a persona of your brand, right? So this is from the Nike website. And if this would be your own website, see here you see like the content, the tone of voice, it's dynamic, inspiring, bold, contemporary. So those is the tone of voice of the brand of Nike site. This could be different. This is different for any website, right? So for any brand whatsoever. But again, it is quite helpful. And let's save this persona now. And let's actually find the audiences for Nike, right? So let's go to Nike. And let's discover who's actually buying from a Nike page, right? And what the tool does, it builds personas in we didn't spend even a minute, right? So we have now the customer personas for a product, for a company that will be helpful for us to build actually the ICP. Right? Again, personas are difficult, right? Because they're very generalized. What we need to do here is we need to hone down on the persona and start building the ICP and sub niche. Find the sub niche that we are after. But it's a good starting point with information, and you can do this. For hundreds of different personas. If you would be Nike, said, all right. The aspiring sports star is actually my target audience, right? So we save this here, and this tool helps you. And this is where we stop using this usually, because we're just after that information. But what it does, for the ones who are technical savvy, is it helps us create a campaign, right? So, no, I didn't put this here yet. Let me do this. Nurture audience. So we want nurture, we can generate a new audience, right? And then we see this is here, it doesn't work. Yeah. But pretty much what you can do is up to here, you find your audience and based on your brand or your company, and it's just a piece of information that you may need in order to build your real ICP. The second tool we're using is Delph AI, right? And that goes into your Google Analytics, right? It analyzes any page, right, that you link to it. What it can do is gives you your social media personas, whoever is on your social media channels, it profiles these and basically builds profiles. It profiles your competition, right, if this is interesting to you. And then it runs, a ton of web analytics. What's interesting about this one, it builds, and if you already have traffic on your page, if you have customers, again, if you do have first customers, it builds customer journeys, and it gives you an idea of what people do on your page and how long it takes actually to convert a person, a user on your page. So this is questions, anyone?
So there's a question about, do you advise that you build personas off of your for your competitors and identify the ones you can serve better than your competitors?
No, I don't. We don't look after competition. I mean, they're just an information source at this point, right? Because we're not trying to usually, I mean, if you're trying to build a copycat, then this makes sense. For us, it is just useful information, right? And but we don't use actually any competitive data, not at this point.
There's another one by Zaki. By any chance, is your persona audience different from social media buyers versus company website buyers?
Well, this is what we would have to find out here, right? So it goes into your Google Analytics. So have your website personas. It builds different segments here. And then, of course, you hook up your social media accounts, right? And you enter your domain here, and it pulls maybe totally different information. But we have seen with companies that their web personas were totally different from their social personas. So if you want to consistently communicate to the same user base, to the same ICP, you got to make sure that the people you attract on your website and the people you attract on your social media, that they have, I mean, at least, I mean, a good overlap. Right? And if they're totally different, then something is probably wrong with the way you communicate to your audience here. I mean, because you're attracting two different target groups. And the competitor persona, again, I mean, they scrape some web data here. It's interesting. Again, we don't look at this. It's interesting to know, but it isn't something that we factor in at this point yet. So at an early stage, we really look more for people who come to your page and who spend some time on your page, and people who actually follow you on social media. And I mean, the problem with social media is you have like 80–90% people who have no interest in following you. You have actually competition following you. So the website data on the other side is way more accurate. But again, the issue is if you're a startup at a very early stage, we don't have that traffic yet, right? So, and for that reason, we use the other tool, the Supercopy tool, because it models us a persona if you don't have an idea yet. And it just reconfirms that our assumption could be right. And again, and the communication we set up is then based on that persona and based on that ICP. That we say we have 3 or 5 or 6 different ICPs, and we start to test these. This is the only thing we do. It's a helpful tool to build these and to validate very fast. Because I remember it used to take, again, weeks to build personas, right, and ICPs. I mean, to sift through LinkedIn data, with that tool, we can do this like in a matter of minutes and even run a campaign like in like 60 minutes. And by the end of the day, we have first results. So it's about being fast, right? And again, we don't trust all the data we're getting back from Google Analytics or all of that tool, but it's a good point to validate the data. It's just a data point for us. And further along the journey, after a few weeks, once we start honing down on like 1 or 2 different target audience only, right? We then revalidate our findings with these tools in order to optimize those first campaigns. Okay, questions? All right.
We see another question from, sorry. On is asking how you know that the AI stuff that is being created is actually accurate. How do you know that the persona is useful?
It's pulling it from the SEO information, from the LinkedIn page, and from your website.
But how do you know that that's actually correct and useful?
That's what I don't know.
Yeah. So
This is my assumption.
you have to run it. You have to run a test, right?
You have to run a test, correct? That's what I said before. We don't trust all the data, right? We look at the data and then we test the data.
Right. So what does a test look like?
Oh, a test is a campaign test. So we come to this, I mean, a little bit later.
Okay.
But pretty much you set up, I mean, if you're in B2B, we define 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sub-niches. We set up messaging and send out the typical connection request on LinkedIn in order to see how many people do connect with us and how many people are interested in talking to us. Are we hitting the right people? or is our messaging right? So we're trying to find out the audience first, and then we try to get the messaging right. And all of this is a process that can take from anywhere between 4 and 6 and 8 weeks, right? If we run like 1 week sprints, after 6 weeks, we pretty much have an idea of the audience that is most likely to respond to an invitation for a customer discovery interview. And in B2C, it's different. B2C is it's social media driven. So we create posts for the main social media networks and get traffic on the page and see how the engagement actually develops. The alternative way is, but then again, I mean, we could spend money on digital ads, but again, this is quite expensive. So we actually say go with organic social media instead, and try to find your audience first. Try to build out your social media presence and your followers first within your target audience before you spend any dime on ads. Because I mean, Facebook, of course, will optimize your budget at some point. But what we have seen is that the results or the money spent on Facebook is not worth it. Again, this is just based on our own experience. Additional questions?
Monish is asking about automating the testing process.
We come to this.
Okay.
We come to this. I mean, yeah, we come to this. The problem is we have many tools, right? And if you want to automate everything from A to Z, you need a tool like make.com or Zapier in between. And you need to glue the different platforms into one process. They all have an API. There is no one tool that does everything. It's difficult. If you had just one tool that does everything, I mean, that would be easy to do, but there is no one tool that actually can deliver the entire process. So when we look at B2B, we have, I mean, the LinkedIn automation, which is one part of this. But again, you still need to do the customer discovery and you still need to do the audience, right? So we have like 2 or 3 different tools at the same time that we need to use. When we talk about B2C, we need to generate posts, and one of our tools that we are using, let me jump here, I show this very quick. This is SocialBee, and SocialBee is a social media platform. What they have built in is actually a co-pilot for content generation. So what it does, you give him like a topic, you have all your social media networks here, and say, all right, I need to write a post about angel investing. That was my example here, right? So I just click the AI and say, all right, generate the captions, and then, all right, this is for LinkedIn, and ask it to generate, right? So, and here we have our post immediately. What we can do here is now we pick this one and say, all right, I need actually an image. I guess the image is here. And no, it's the hashtags. So there is a way to create okay, wait, images. So we add an image to this. So here is here are the prompts, and I say, all right, natural vivid, what prompts? Okay, investing. Let's take this, investing. Give it a 1-word prompt and ask it to generate. Okay. And voila. So it taps into DALL-E, and it should create 2 images now. Here we go. So it's a one-stop process. Now you take this image and it's here. So this is it's as easy as it gets. So you have actually a social media, posting, scheduling platform that has a co-pilot built in, and you just add your messaging here, create the image, and this can be good enough, right? And again, you will be out posting in no time. So pretty good tool, very inexpensive. Again, I will share the list, at the end of the session here. so that everybody can jump on these tools. And it has scheduling, it has analytics built in, all of this. Again, this is a startup that is 5 years old. And you can actually get posts for B2B and B2C for all the video platforms too. So, but this is a one-stop solution for B2C. This is as fast, as far as it gets at the moment. And again, the image, you can't change the image here unless you're a Photoshop expert. You could take this and use some of the Adobe tools and start changing this. But if you need something more sophisticated, then there is a manual process involved. And the same goes for LinkedIn, right? You can actually run posts here from LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is different from the other social media networks because LinkedIn requires you not just to post social media content, it also requires you to send out messaging and to speak to your audience, to find your audience, because LinkedIn works the other way around. But that means on LinkedIn, you need to have a social media post up, and you need to do this frequently, and you need to send out a messaging sequence, a connection request sequence in order to connect with your target audience. So, and this goes hand in hand. This is, from an automation perspective, right? As far as it gets at the moment, there are no tools, or there are hardly any tools in the market yet that actually combine text and image or video at this point. So most of the processes that we see, or most of the tools that we see, you need to start with a text-to-text prompt, then you need to create a text-to-image prompt and create your image, and then you need to merge this. Again, they are in a different business here. They are a social media tool, and they found a way to tap into the API, but there is no native tool yet. That actually does both jobs, and it's just a matter of time, I guess, right? It's just a matter of time until we see tools like this. They do this in a one-stop process. Questions?
We see a question about, is this really for pre-seed, pre-product companies, or is this for founders that have, already got an MVP and the product and everything working?
No, it's for pre-seed. It's for early stage. This here is you put out your hypothesis, right? You put out your messaging into a social post, right? And get your messaging out and see how do people respond to it. You need to find an audience, be it on Facebook, be it on Instagram or TikTok in the worst case. But it's about testing your messaging here. Right. It's just testing the messaging. And on the B2B side, it's exactly the same. On B2B, it is about building, becoming the subject matter expert on LinkedIn and sending out connection requests to the people you want to talk to. LinkedIn is very special because people want to see you, that you are an expert in the market, and you can actually reach that status by posting, expert content on LinkedIn. And it just makes it easier, for you to start that conversation. There's a couple of things in the back end about the algorithm of LinkedIn. How you can tinker with that, right? Because in order to find the right audience, they want you to post. So, whenever you post something and you're talking to the right people, they're going to show all your posts to the right people. So that is stuff in the back end that whoever does B2B marketing needs to take into account. But at this point, it's really about getting the posts out, getting social media posts out, making this actually as easy as possible, regardless of what your target audience is. And so, yes, this is for early stage, right? These tools are for early stage. It's the same. It goes for the LinkedIn automation tools. And again, we have a lot of startups. They're coming here from that group. And they are using tools like this. And it's always interesting to see that their early assumptions are wrong, especially when it comes to their target audience. Next question.
It looks like people are talking a little bit about other tools and some broken links. I think we're basically good on the questions.
Good. All right. So when it comes to research, this is right now the #1 AI tool to use in the market. ChatGPT, I mean, has a big issue. ChatGPT lies to you. It hallucinates, right? So, and this is a research tool that is pretty inexpensive. I mean, like $29 per year, I guess. That basically pulls all the sources and citations actually from live from the internet, right? Okay, let's talk. What is Seattle Angel Conference? So this is actually, let's do this. And it's a live search. It pulls all the information from LinkedIn and from the web and puts it actually into a nice report. So, and here we see the advantage over ChatGPT because all the resources and links are here, right? And then it asks follow-up questions. Well, how can startups apply? Now it goes to the next question. Now it summarizes actually all the information it finds actually about Seattle Angel Conference, right? And it gives you always the links to this, right? So, and this is pretty powerful because ChatGPT is, I mean, it stopped in 2023. I mean, this is live, right? It's, I mean, I was just yesterday about some results from the Olympics. It pulls the information already from the Olympics. So something that we usually recommend using for all sorts of research, because I mean it actually gets you to the information much faster. ChatGPT is the big issue. It stopped, I mean, they stopped training it in 2023. And then, of course, what we see is like sometimes it's making up stuff. Right? And we see this on Claude, we see this on Google Gemini, and all of these large language models. I mean, and they are really a search tool combined with AI, which makes it actually a little bit different. And we use this, I mean, usually as a foundation, and then we copy the information here. Once we have all the information, we move all of this to ChatGPT or to Claude or Google Gemini and start building actually an interesting content piece or a website or whatever we want to do with that piece of information. What Perplexity is not good at is actually creating compelling content. It can do research, but it cannot create compelling content. And that's when we move over to that one here or that one. I guess we don't need to talk about these tools because everybody's using these already. Any questions on Perplexity? And if anybody's really interested, test it and you can hit me up. I mean, there is actually in the market, there is a deal for $29 per year. So you pay this once and you get it for 29.
So
Anyone?
Joshua asks about looking for tools that can pull data from on-site events. Wonders if there's an AI tool for scraping events for getting data.
Yes, there is. There is actually. We can. You have to. Let's do this at the end. There is data. I mean, there are scraping tools in the market. And they're a little bit more complicated, but something like this here. Let me show this. This is Dean. So this is like a task worker, right? That you actually deploy. And it runs in a Chrome extension. You connect this actually to your Google Sheet account. You connect it to your. You basically give it a task, and it continuously runs that task for you. So this is one of the more sophisticated tools in the market, right? There is Zapier, of course, and there is make.com. But Zapier and Make don't pull the data directly, right? I mean, they are just like a bridge, a connection between different tools. In order to scrape the data, you need something like Bardeen. And if you look at the use cases here, web scraping, and they are, I mean, Google Jobs, News, Zapier. I mean, there's a ton of use cases they have. Meetup, John, Meetup data. Google Maps,
We're
Pfeiffer data.
we're struggling a little bit with Meetup giving us access to user data. They seem to hide a bunch of things, so it makes it
Yeah.
difficult to automate some of the tests.
Yeah. But here, I mean, you have all these platforms where you can actually scrape the information from. So when it comes to events, I mean, the question is, are you interested in like LinkedIn events? Is it like Meetup data? Is it Eventbrite data? What is the data that you're looking for? Where you're trying to pull the data from?
I think I get the impression that Josh is looking for third-party data and getting it off of other people's sites. I work in immersive on-site experimental industry, ticketed experiences and trade shows.
That
So,
means you want to
so
scrape data from different websites, correct?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. You can use tools like Badin for this.
yeah.
You can use tools. You just have to build it, right, in a way that it actually, you have to get provided with a list of websites or categories of websites, and that it actually can pull the information. Let me
So
see.
do you get reasonable results from ChatGPT 4.0 to pull data from a specific website in a specific format?
You could, yes, you could. I mean, ChatGPT is easy to use for this. I mean, but let's actually compare this. Is it, let's, okay, just give me a website to scrape.
Joshua, you want to turn on your audio?
Yes,
And
please.
Yeah. Hi, Josh.
Hi.
I guess like you could probably pull something from like SIGGRAPH. I feel like in the spaces that I play in, some of the trade shows, there's like specific categories. Like one specific sector we play in is cannabis, and that's a pretty closed system. And also, they don't have a lot of data generally on the internet for us to really pull from because there's legislation that prevents us from, they can't advertise. So there's opportunity in those spaces to like, help those brands. But to find that kind of data, I am using ChatGPT as my like persona builder right now. So already you've given me a couple tools here that have really helped out. But I feel like there's, especially with like on-site, like IDS or something like that, it's very much it feels more closed system. Yeah, there's data that I don't know how to get access to.
What we did for, I mean, it was actually here at one of the startup coffees, we scraped data, all the cannabis websites, right? So we did a Google map search and based on Google Maps because they're all, I mean, somehow, I mean, they have a presence somewhere. So we used a Google Map scraper and then actually pulled the website from Google Maps and started scraping the data. And the easiest way to do, right? So if you have like a like Washington State, for instance, right? You can actually pull this in and then start scraping the data, like what is their internet site, and then you run basically an internet scraper with a list where you upload all the websites and start basically scraping those sites. You just have to tell the scraper what to do. And there's a bunch of tools, new tools, AI tools in the market. Bardeen is one, and there's a few more. I'm happy to share these, right? Because they all come with a free trial to test. That's what I would do. I would test them all, right? And see, okay, what is the information I'm getting back from these?
Cool.
But
Thank
again,
you so much.
yeah. But again, I'll just hit me up on LinkedIn, and I will send a list around. I will add this to the list. All
Will
right.
do.
Okay. Thank you.
So Sarah asks about, are there any tools that you can use to automate interacting in a personal way using direct messaging with specific customers in LinkedIn?
Yes. But we are talking about Black Hat now here. We're talking. Are you trying? Okay, you want to automate this, Sarah?
Yeah, we basically direct message with our potential customers using LinkedIn, which is really, really great at building relationships, but it's completely unscalable. So it's only as good as our ability to find the right customer and then kind of find information that's relevant and then build a conversation with them. So I'm looking at whether, right now that works for us, but at some point we'll want to scale. So it's really, is there a tool that can use all of the knowledge that we have and build and do that at scale.
There are a few tools already in the market, AI tools that basically at least try to solve this. I have to pull this list because I mean the problem on LinkedIn is they're very restrictive, extremely restrictive, because you can get your account banned easily. And so it runs actually in a Google Chrome extension. I mean, this is what they would do. And you want actually ChatGPT to automatically respond, correct? Based on the know-how that you collected.
Yeah. I don't know it well. I don't know if it's ChatGPT.
Whatever language model is behind it, it doesn't matter, right? But you
Okay.
want an autoresponder behind this, right? Something that basically you get a customer inquiry in, and then you some tool response.
Yeah, whilst retaining personalization as if it was a human having a conversation in person.
Yeah, I mean, what you're trying to do is possible on Facebook, it's possible on in Messenger, especially in Messenger, it's possible on Instagram and stuff like this. On LinkedIn, it always requires a plugin and a human actually to use that plugin, right? I can send, I mean, an overview of tools and just have a look at these, right? And see if you find anything that actually is interesting for you. But I would be interested in that one too, I tell you. That one would be cool to have, but what we see actually, because we do automate the entire process, right? And what we would need to do is actually have a plug-in ChatGPT, DALL-E, whatever this is. It needs to respond to a message. The problem with that is that LinkedIn, so we are scraping the data from LinkedIn on our end. So we're uploading this into our platform, and then we need to respond. And just that is at the moment impossible. But there may be ChatGPT based, I mean, Chrome extensions that will be able to help you, right? Commenting on like posts is easy, right? There's a lot of plugins where you comment on posts, but I haven't seen the message reply automation. But this is something worthwhile digging in, right? So I come back to you, I mean, this week with a few tools that I have seen. And maybe there's something to say, all right, this is the right tool to use. Okay. Good. All right.
Thank you.
Anyone? Okay, ChatGPT, Midjourney. All right, so image generation, the best image generator is this one here. I don't know, I mean, who's using image generation tools? But we use this in conjunction with ChatGPT. We asked ChatGPT to create a prompt for Midjourney, and it actually creates a photorealistic image of a startup, of a 40-year-old startup founder for Midjourney. And the problem with these tools is they look sometimes weird. I mean, those images, they look like they are not out of this world. So what we do here is we use ChatGPT in order just to go to Midjourney and ask it to create an image like this. And the prompt style. Oh, they changed this from Discord. And, we usually use Discord, but I couldn't share my Discord here. No, it's not generating. It's not generating. But no, we have John can no. I'll do this at the end. So, but again, I mean, from an image point of view, Midjourney creates. I mean, pretty much the best. Oh, here it is. Here's the result. Here's the result. They look almost real, right? So if you use DALL-E, which is part of ChatGPT, you're not getting these kind of results. Right. And so again, ChatGPT helps you at creating or defining the prompt, but you should use that tool here definitely for creating, photorealistic images. Because you don't need, you put it on your website and nobody can tell, the difference anymore. And then there is stability AI. If you use an API, this is much better. Midjourney does not have an API yet. So if you create a lot of images, you need to use stability diffusion. And they are very similar to this one. But that one is, at the point, I feel like, they have the edge in the market for photorealistic pictures and images of humans. Everyone else can do everything else. Then we have a video tool. Sometimes you need to create videos fast. So Zebra Cat. Let me do this. We can actually create a video on the fly for anything. Let me do this. Turn any blog post. Okay. John, it is the Seattle Angel Conference, right? So let's see what it does. Angel conference.com. And we want to have AI visuals. Oops. HTTPS and like this. All right, and ask it just to create a 30-second video as somebody who is inspiring and generate a video. So this is what it takes these days to get a video ready in the market. And there are many tools like this, right? They're getting better actually by the week or by the day. This was pretty inexpensive. There was an AppSumo deal which gave you, like a license for $100, where you can create every month 80 minutes of video footage. So we're playing with this, and you can choose between real images and AI generated images. They're both good. It just takes away the pain of generating videos. We come back to this one in a second. Let me move this. I don't know if whoever used that one here, Synthesia, right? It's a pretty good tool to generate sales videos. And they are super, super, super realistic. Very easy to use, very easy to prompt. You just log in and just tell the system, I want to create a presentation, a video presentation of a PowerPoint. You upload your PowerPoint and it turns it actually into a presentation, a video presentation. So these are the video tools. I mentioned this one before. This is Hauyuku. This is a tool where you can run your A/B experiments. On any website, run like 20 variations of this. Very easy to set up. It has heat maps and everything involved. It shows you traffic. You can build actually funnels, and you pretty much get to understand how is your website traffic turn into commitments, right? How do they convert? And it has, the interesting part is the heat maps here, because you can actually look at your users and see what they do on your website. We talked about this one here. This was Social Bee. Again, this one is a chatbot builder that we are using. It's totally AI driven. So it's called ChatGPT Builder IO. And especially when you run B2C campaigns where you have your audience sitting on Instagram or Facebook, it basically starts automatically conversations. Whoever leaves a comment on a post or on an ad, you can run ads, and basically leaves a comment on an ad, the chatbot builder starts interacting with that person and leads that person or user through a funnel, to your homepage, in order to convert that user, into a paying customer. And the integrations, I mean, you can all the different language models here. You have Google Sheets here. You can actually do calendar bookings automatically. So you have Zapier, you have Google Dialogflow, you got payment integrations. It's all automated. You get WooCommerce, you got different email systems in the back end. You can actually have 11 Labs as your voice tool. So, and this plays on Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Instagram, Google Business Messages. You have a web chatbot on your website, can hook it up to SMS, voice message, Telegram. And voice means this is actually a voice AI. So we are building right now a voice AI for a client, which is more like a meeting booking voice AI. So it reconfirms a meeting. It calls that person automatically, confirms the meeting, and asks for additional information. And this is completely automated. So you can do the outreach. Just in case you wonder, in the US, it's not permitted to use voice AI for cold outreach. Very important. It's illegal. Yeah. And email. So pretty good tool, right? Very inexpensive, very inexpensive. So this is one of the tools I would highly recommend for anyone who's actually in the B2C space. Speaking of LinkedIn and Twitter engagement, so we have a tool here, Power In. What they do is they engage with content on LinkedIn. So we have target accounts here. These are my LinkedIn target accounts. These are people I follow. Whenever they post, my AI jumps into the conversation and auto comments. So we have in the back, we have Claude running, Claude AI, and basically you can set your tone here. I mean, you have like the comment length, how formal, what's the tone. Are you asking questions? What is your personality? You can have all of this. You set this actually based on your own preferences. And then you get up to 200 engagements on LinkedIn per day. This is what happens. So this is a way to build your LinkedIn account. And the same goes for Twitter. And this is more interesting actually, because I found way more people on Twitter than on LinkedIn that are really having interesting conversations about AI. So my bot goes after basically the target accounts that I set up, and it goes after keywords. And so my keyword is Gen AI. It is machine learning. So it finds all those tweets and comments, auto comments on those tweets. And when people respond, I get a notification and jump into the conversation. Nobody has time to actually have 200 conversations per day. Nobody has time. So for this is $39, right, a month. But it helps you building actually an audience. It helps you building, or positioning you as a thought leader in the space. And I started building my Twitter account back like 3 months ago. I went from 1K now to 2K, right? So, and they're all engaged followers. They're all engaged. It's quite interesting tool. Yeah, this is something that we are building with another company, right? So, I mean, we have an auto blocking tool, auto marketing, a daily news spot that pulls information from like Google. We can run a LinkedIn bot here that automatically posts for you, right? Same goes for Reddit, respond on messages on Reddit. We can actually go into your competitor's SEO and pull basically all their content and copy their content and publish it daily on your own website. So you pretty much steal their traffic based on their own content. So you can do tweet replies, which is quite interesting. So there is an automation where you reply actually to tweets. There is an export that posts automatically every day on Twitter. And then you have YouTube responders. Right? So I mean, you don't need all of the tools, but some of them are quite interesting, especially the auto blocking and the auto marketing tools here, because they save you a lot of work. And that's it, I guess, for now. Questions, anyone? And Sarah, I'm going to send you the list because you kept writing.
I am writing notes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll share this list and probably a little bit more, but there are so many tools. I mean, and this is changing like daily. Right? And and it's finding the good ones. I mean, the problem with AI is there are many Me Too tools at the moment. They're flooding the market. And I guess trying to skim the market at the moment to get as much money in as possible, and they disappear like in a year from now. I mean, my assumption is that only 10% of those tools will actually survive, if at all, at 10%. But we've seen this, right? I mean, the SaaS and many of the other tools, right? I mean, right now it's because of funding dried up for many of the SaaS companies, everybody's jumping on AI. And as soon as you mention AI, I mean, you put lipstick on a pig here, right? So you make it actually quite interesting. I mean, as a company again. Yeah. Anyone questions?
I'm not seeing any specific questions in there right now. A little bit of chatting going on, but nothing specific. Why don't we take you off of Spotlight and do the channel, and people can come up and talk a little bit. So Sarah, I'm sure that you have a question hidden in there. Why don't you start off and others can think a little bit about the question then.
I have one for Vikash. Vikash?
Oh, yeah.
That tool was, I showed that tool, that was Synthesia, right? So you can upload your own avatar into Synthesia. I'm doing this actually next week. And basically create your own avatar. I mean, they have a plan, a creator's plan for $60, right? And then you can create like 3, 4, or 5 different avatars of yourself, and you can use them for presentations like this. Right? You speak like 40 different languages, but this is the tool I showed, right? It's pretty easy. You just upload video. You need to generate 5 minutes of spoken video content. Upload it, and you get like an instant result. They instantly turn this into an AI avatar.
So I want to drag Sarah up here while we have people here a little bit, and to talk about the experiment, right? Because I don't feel like we actually did a good job of articulating what an arc of an experiment would look like, right? So we're talking about being at the very beginning. I'm in the shower. I have an idea. I want to run a bunch of experiments to find what sub niches might respond to that idea. So I'm going to identify some sub-market of some kind. And ChatGPT and those can be used to sort of help you find the, possible place to start. If you just ask ChatGPT, who has this kind of problem, it gives you a bunch of items. And then now the question is whether that's true or not. And then I would like to run a content strategy where I attract those people and then I run some kind of test. Is that the same structure that you talk about, Sarah?
It is. It's broadly similar, John. We tend to because I think critical, which I mentioned in the comments, is actually identifying of all potential markets that you could ever go into, where are those early adopter customers? And this is particularly critical if you're a very early stage founder, is you tend to have an idea of who, and typically we find founders have a very broad idea of all markets they could ever go into in a really big go-to-market strategy. What we typically suggest is to start with really thinking outside the box about what's your hypothesis of the problem that you want to solve and that you're interested in solving. What's your hypothesis of a vision for the impact that you want to have around that problem, which is really your kind of like your North Star. And from there, ideate as many possible criteria on which you can identify the best possible early adopter customers. And you can use, I've struggled a bit with ChatGPT. You can use ChatGPT to come up with a few kind of ideation ideas. However, critical thing for successful early stage startups is that the most ideal customer segments are usually not obvious. Like if you look at Canva, the founder of Canva started with yearbook creation tools in high schools in a suburb of Australia. And from that really specific niche, she then kind of validated the problem, and it was a really compelling problem that was impactful once a year. And then, of course, everyone forgot how to do it. And then it was a problem again the next year. She then ran experiments to see because, and again, we say it's all about creating hypotheses. So the hypothesis there was that, and again, I'm creating this up. I don't know the founder of Canva personally, but the hypothesis was that if software existed to make it really easy to create that yearbook, and then people would pay for the actual printing of the yearbook. And then the fact that people said that was a problem, you had students and teachers using it and actually then using Canva software. And of course, running that experiment, which is, do people have the problem? Are they willing to pay to solve it, or actively seeking a solution? Getting validation through paying customers. And then from that, then if people love it, they'll tell more people about it and more people about it. And so you get that viral word of mouth. And of course, from there, what happened was that then people went, well, actually, I want this in other walks of life. Like I want this, I want that. So product market fit was actually achieved with a really super small niche segment and a particular product. And then from there, that's when the go-to-market strategy and the flywheel started. And so I don't know that I've necessarily answered the question about setting experiments, but it's about.
I want to press on that a little bit.
Yeah.
We have a fundamental issue, which is we always end up talking about solutions.
Yeah.
Right. And even in what you just talked about, it was about a solution and the arc and down in the scale part of it. And that confuses people when we then talk about when you're early in the thing. I'm in the shower. I had the idea. I have nothing else. I just have the idea, and I'm pre-idea, pre-team, pre-everything. And I still should be using AI, and I still should be automating my tests, and I should be looking for customer problem fit. Make me a list of people that have the problem who are willing to spend money today to solve the problem. I can do all of that inside a content strategy and run a content strategy where I offer something and then I offer something else for pay and see if people go from the free one to the paid one and demonstrate my knowledge of the expertise as Thorsten was saying before, right? And then all of the machinations of doing that takes just inordinate amounts of time, right? I have to make this video, I have to make this cut, I have to build a content thing. So now I have a full-time job doing this little video editing thing when it has nothing to do with the question I'm trying to solve, right? So what Thorsten's providing is a set of tools, and I'm hoping to next week that you are going to then talk about exactly how to structure a test that is free everything so that I can get to the point of customer problem fit with a list of 100 people that are like all in on, my God, I have to have this problem solved. Here's all the things I've tried and they all suck.
Yeah.
Right. And that data collection is the thing that creates the unobserved need that you can see. Right. All right.
Yeah,
so I
absolutely.
just wanted to...
I'm going to go into that in a lot of detail next week, because we typically say that there is no AI tool that can help you to do that, because you start with that hypothesis of early adopters, and then the only way to deeply understand their problems to begin with is to speak to them and learn about them, like learn what they're doing day to day, learn what success looks like for them, understand what problems they tell you they have that are keeping them up at night and the impact of those problems. And only by having those conversations with multiple people in that specific beachhead can you start to understand the patterns of problems. And then once you know the patterns of problems, you can use a tool like Alex Osterwalder's value proposition design to then map customer problems to potential pain relievers and game creators that you can have in your solution. And we very specifically say your solution should never try and be everything that it could ever be. You want to start with the smallest thing you can build that people will pay for because it solves a problem, And if you have that, then you can start to get validation from paying customers so that you know from the market that your solution works and that people get value from it. And of course, from there, you can start to get feedback of what customers love it and what they don't. And I'll stop.
No, here's the problem. You again moved into product.
But only in so. But the problem,
Yeah, so
again,
I'm
that's
still
that
stranded
two-sided.
way over at the other end here. I'm
Yeah.
trying to find the group of people with the problem. What
Yeah.
can I have without building any solution whatsoever? And the answer to that, in my mind, is content. And so
Yeah.
monetizing content and just using monetized content about the problem
Yeah.
then answers the question of customer problem fit without even dealing with solution at all, right? And all of that scaling and solution and customer solution fit and customer or product market fit is later, right? And when everybody starts with my hand around the project, right? Not the business, the project, then we always get into that set of words. And the fact that we use those words about it in our examples as we talk about how to run the tests, then tricks, even Eric Ries did this in his book, The Lean Startup, talked about the solution way too early in the conversation, which now everybody talks about solution and they skip that first step. Now I'm going down my rabbit hole and I'll stop. I want to make sure, thank you for doing that. And we will talk more with you next week. I'm going to take you down and I'm going to ask if anybody else wants to ask a question. No questions? What do I mean by monetizing content? Yeah.
Right, Josh. Just wanted to understand it better. Like, I understand when you say content, just publishing content without necessarily monetizing it. When you say monetizing content, do you mean it should be monetized somehow?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're thinking of like experiences like the Sphere, or if you've heard of Meow Wolf, there are these like on-site experiences that people pay exceptional amount of money. Like, I'm based in Vancouver. We just had an experience called the Infinity Experience, and it was like a NASA-based collaboration with a creative team out of Montreal. The experience was an hour. It was a little bit of a VR, a little bit of an experiential thing on site. They had literally no social media whatsoever. It was just almost like completely word of mouth. The bookings for the first 3 months were absolutely solid, 15-minute intervals with like 30 people or 15 people coming in. And the tickets were $50. And I mean, like, sure, there's like a variable on like how many people got discounts or whatever, you know, like they had educational discounts and stuff like that. It ran for 6 months, but we're a tiny market, like very tiny in Vancouver. We are kind of tech savvy, and people from Vancouver are working at places like Amazon or working at like Netflix. Those big like corporate tech companies are here, and we have well, once upon a time budding film and game industry up here as well. So there's a little bit of like a audience that I'm aware of that comes into this, and the more that I'm looking into these kind of like experiences, I'm seeing like a growing industry as a whole. They're very much becoming, and like the need I'm seeing is that people are kind of tired of their Netflix film stuff is just content. It's just junk food.
You're
right?
thinking about content as the product.
Yeah.
And
Content as a product.
Again, I want to press hard on this
Mhm.
because we keep missing it. The content that I do that demonstrates that I understand the problem can be as simple as a blog post, a YouTube. So I can just set up a paywall and do some in front of the paywall and some after the paywall and see if people will jump over the paywall, right? That's a simple experiment. Or I can run Zoom meetings and I can do a panel and I can get other experts in the problem and I can run free ones and then I can run paid ones and I just see who jumps over the paywall again. And these are little tiny experiments that I can do in a week or two to run a little bit of marketing, see how many people come through and jump across. That's a much more bite-sized question than I'm doing this big content thing. So content as a product, I think, is a whole interesting industry, but that's different than what I mean when I say monetize content as an experiment.
Right. And is the idea to sort of get these folks who sort of jump over the paywall and to understand those are the exact users we want to target?
Well, it's the beginning of filtering the audience down to the ones that we should interview, right? So I don't want to interview people who are not customers, right? And so if I have a big sign and I say, come talk to me about whatever, I get 99% noise and this little tiny signal. And I want to crush out the 99% noise and get a much bigger signal. And then as I get these 100 people that say, oh my God, you know, the people who attend the workshop are one group of people. The subgroup of those that attend and regularly attend the paid workshops are the ones that are leaning in. Now I interview them. And now I can start seeing the submarkets inside there. And then I can use the things that Thorsten was talking about in terms of building lookalike audiences and building personas and stuff like that to make that go, right?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Thanks a
Yeah.
lot.
All right. Anything you want to do with the question, Thorsten?
Can you run your question again, please?
Just what do I mean by monetized content, and where does monetized content fit into this AI automated thing you're talking about?
I mean, we are talking not about monetized content usually, right? In regard to, I mean, those experiments. I mean, from your point of view, John, right? We talked about this many times, right? You can build a community, right? And can actually monetize your content in that community, your expertise. That's one way of doing this. What we usually do is, I mean, when we work with the startup founders, we feel like they need to become the subject matter experts in the market. They need to start generating interesting, compelling content so people notice them. What we see is many of those founders, when it comes to content, they're on Instagram. They are actually on TikTok, right? They don't spend any time on LinkedIn. This is the point. On LinkedIn, you find your target audience. And you don't find it on TikTok, to be honest, but unless you are, I mean, a consumer business, right? But you need to spend time on LinkedIn and actually generate a content engine and get this content out. Because especially LinkedIn, it's gotten easier and it's gotten more difficult again. Because, I mean, when we target or reach out to your early customers, they want to see actually that you are an expert in the market, that you know what you're talking about. So, and you can actually achieve this by generating content. And AI can be very helpful with that. Right? It is actually very helpful. But it used to be really difficult to get this content in place. But for that reason, content plays a crucial role in order to position you as the founder, as the expert in the market. Because people want to talk to experts, right? They don't want to talk to the average.
And so an example of how you can drive that is I run a series of Zoom meetings about the problem. I go find the 20, 30 experts in the world around this problem, and I'm the host of the workshop. And now I can learn all the things that all the experts have, and I have a channel that's bringing them all together. And now I'm known as the person that knows everything about that space because that's what we're talking about. And then I run those for free and I run them for pay. And the people that jump over the line are the ones I interview. Yeah. All right. Thanks so very much. Any other questions that people want to put forward for us? Nope. All right. So we will dive into this again in some level of detail next week with Sarah talking about the testing structure with her Leap Sheep efforts. I will put this up on the YouTube channel. Feel free to look there. Do be aware that all of this is intended to make you a stronger startup and actually a stronger investor in startups. So we have many workshops on our channel, so please go take a look. Thanks for coming. Yes, and please save the chat. I think you'll find it useful.
Thank you, Phil, so much. It's been quite helpful. I'm pretty new to the community, and I've been pretty blown away by the resources so far.
Cool. Thanks. And by the way, Canada is part of North America, so you're fully on board of our program.
Oh yeah, I mean for sure, you got to get that special American business know-how for sure. We're Grant land up here, so
Yeah, I know.